Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Plenty of audio to get to in this particular episode. Lots of education-related issues, few geopolitical things as well, and a great deal of medical stuff, including some audio here from Renette Sunham at the very end, having to do with 5G and implementation of 5G, I would certainly say very specifically within the state of California, if not nationwide. And again, that 5G implementation, of course, already exists, but there's a very specific nuanced detail here having to do with the FCC's implementation and basically a gap of time now that the government is opening back up and what that essentially means for this implementation, which unfortunately, again, would basically mean that regardless of local government, many of which are remarkably stupid, as we know, they wouldn't have any say as to what actually happens regarding 5G implementation either. But I'll get to that here in just a little bit. First, let me address something here. I received an email from an individual that I've brought up on the show maybe, half a dozen times. Former school board member, David Bothist, who was being investigated, of course, by the Ethics Commission on at least two separate occasions for at least two separate incidents, both of which, of course, I've brought up on the show before and even published on Substack. Let me read this email, and then I'm going to respond formally to his request. He said the following here. This would have been Sunday, November 9th, 2025, to me, host of American Education FM. He includes my email, and keep in mind this is coming from him, not a lawyer. It says, formal demand for retraction and evidence, false and defamatory statement. He says the following, Dear Mr. Brooks, I'm writing to address a false and defamatory statement you made during your podcast, American Education FM, in episode 822, The Fraud Trap in the 2025 election, K-12 election results and potential illegality, released on November 7th, 2025. At approximately 1 hour and 2 minutes into the episode, you explicitly stated that the Board of Ethics forced my resignation from the Talawanda School Board. This claim is demonstrably false. I voluntarily resigned from the Talawanda School Board in August of 2024. No ethics board committee or authority was ever involved in my decision or resignation process. This statement constitutes defamation per se under Ohio Revised Code subsection 2739.01 and others in sequential order, as it falsely attributes professional misconduct to me in a public forum. It has directly harmed my personal and professional reputation and has caused significant emotional distress. I am hereby demanding that you take one of the following actions within 7 days of receipt of this letter. Number 1, provide documented evidence supporting your claim that an ethics board forced my resignation. Or 2, issue a full public retraction and correction on your podcast and affiliated platforms, including Spotify and any secondary publication sites, clearly stating that your prior claim was false. Failure to comply with this demand will leave me no choice but to pursue all available legal remedies, including but not limited to claims of defamation, telecommunications harassment under ORC subsection 2917.21, and menacing by stalking under ORC subsection 211, as part of a continuing pattern of targeted harassment. Please preserve all audio recordings, transcripts, communications, and production records related to episode 822 and any other materials where my name is mentioned, as they may be required for discovery in potential legal proceedings. I sincerely hope this matter can be resolved amicably, and without the need for further action, I request a written response within 7 days confirming your chosen course of action. Sincerely, David M. Bothist, Oxford, Ohio. I responded with the following. I said, sure, that's easy. I'll do it in the next episode. Just deny that you paid yourself back for Super Bowl tickets to the tune of approximately $5,000. and that you did so with the help from Talawanda employees, including one of your son's teachers, as a sitting board member. Better yet, how about you come on the show and I'll give you an entire hour to tell the truth? Thanks for listening to the show. I greatly appreciate it. Sean. He responded and said the following, quote, "This is not a negotiation. David Bathurst." I responded and said, "I'm not negotiating. I told you I'd redact the comments fully. What I'm suggesting is why don't you also come on to the show and tell your side? So you're still denying what you did? My recommendation is you stop listening to others give you advice. If I was you, I'd stop listening to my show and minimize your own exposure. You don't know what I know, and you don't know what would come out in court. Research the term discovery. You're still welcome on the show. Sean." Now, formally, I would like to make a statement regarding this, and I will state the following.
Había subido la mano y encontré una paella. Y la encontré. ¡Asómate, mira dónde llega el agua! Llegaba el agua hasta el restaurante. Había subido la marea. ¡Ay, llama para Sevilla! ¡Llama a Sevilla que traigo paella!
Now, with that aside, I'll say the following. Anytime an individual in the state of Ohio is investigated by the Ethics Commission, of which David Bathurst was, on 2 separate occasions. In fact, the first one, to my knowledge anyway, unless somebody jumped the gun before me, was on February 16th of 2022. In fact, I'm holding the letter right in my hand as I'm speaking. It says the following: "Dear Dr. Brooks, this letter is sent to notify you that on February 16th, 2022, the Ohio Ethics Commission received the information that you forwarded to our office. Thank you for sending this material, which our office will review within the authority to determine whether our office can assist you." They, of course, look into this matter. They move it on to a commission, and then they make a determination. Now, why, of course, did I do that? Very simple. The evidence that David Bathurst provided publicly on the record, on Facebook, and a GoFundMe page, I believe it was. Yeah, it was GoFundMe, which I also published, and again is public because he's the one who made it all public, openly showed that he, again, was soliciting money from school employees as a sitting board member and elected official to pay himself back for Super Bowl tickets. Now, what was interesting is at first I thought to myself, well, geez, that's unethical and that's wrong and no one should do that. And then I thought to myself, well, he's probably just looking for money to see if he can get these tickets and then give them to his adopted children and his husband, and then send them off to Los Angeles to watch the Bengals lose. Apparently, again, that's what all of this was clearly about. What was interesting was that I later found out, even again from his own messages online, on his own social media, which I wasn't even tied into, endless people were sending me this information, he was actually paying himself back for the tickets. That the direct implication is that he had already bought them and then was soliciting money from school employees as a sitting board member to then pay himself back, to again the tune of approximately $5,000. Well, here again, in the Ethics Commission, it does investigate public officials or employees who use their public positions to benefit themselves, their family members, or their business associates. Award, discuss, or recommend public contracts in which any of the following has a financial interest. The public official or employee, their family members, or their business associates hire family members into public positions, commonly referred to as nepotism, engage in prohibited revolving door post-employment behaviors, solicit or accept substantial and improper things of value, including outside employment, gifts, travel, meals, lodging, and entertainment. Engage in the unauthorized disclosure or use of confidential information, file false or incomplete financial disclosure statements, receive improper supplemental compensation, or misuse public equipment for private business. That's what the Ohio Ethics Commission investigates. Now, what's also interesting, of course, based on Ethics Commission standards, is they openly state that their investigation is confidential to people like me who file. And that makes sense. Which means any move that they make against the person that they're investigating, they would move it on to a prosecutor, and then the prosecutor, if they felt the need to do so, would prosecute. That's usually what happens. But there would be no way that I would know that, because it says so in the letter. Per the Ethics Commission themselves, the only way that someone like me would ever find out about it, specifically, is if there was a press release, a prosecution, or the individual being investigated would admit it themselves. But see, it's interesting because he was being investigated, and he's listening, which is fine. He was being investigated for 2 separate incidents by 2 separate parties at 2 separate times. On top of that, and this is again where it gets even more interesting, is that you can gather copious amounts of information through open records requests. And this right here again is one of the things that many school board members do not know. Again, these individuals take these positions for one reason or another, again, whether it's to be unethical or to be ethical, whether it's to follow the law or break the law, or whatever reasons that people take these positions. They take them and they don't understand that there are copious amounts of laws now that they have to follow, that your average citizen does not. They don't seem to understand this. They don't seem to understand that I can make an open records request for anything pertaining to said individual or any individual of an elected position and ask for records. I can ask for phone records. I have them. Apparently, in the year of 2024, when David Bothist quit his position, and he did resign, again, I don't know if he was forced to. I don't know, again, if the circumstances surrounding it. However, I do know that I can infer. And an inference matters. And it says the following for those that don't understand the definition of an inference: the act or process of deriving logical conclusions from premises known or assumed to be true. I can infer as the day is long. I can connect dots, and I can arrive at my own opinion and my own conclusion. He can say that something is false all he'd like. That's fine. Like I said, there's no reason or actual way that I would be able to find out if the Ethics Commission told him to leave his position. There's no way I would know that because, again, they have no legal obligation to tell me or any other party who filed against him for one reason or another. However, they would have to tell him. You would think, just based on due process, that he was being investigated. There were 2 cases opened up against him. One for potential FERPA violations in targeting minors and their parents. And the other, again, the one that I opened very early into his tenure, having to do with paying himself back for Super Bowl tickets and soliciting money from staff members as a sitting board member, which you would think would be a common sense no-no, but apparently he lacks that. But regarding open records requests and my inference here, which is crystal clear, my question to David is, why did you make 26 phone calls in the year of 2024, totaling approximately 559 hours. Were you using your district phone? Is this your personal phone number? I mean, hell, I don't know. I just find it interesting. I find it interesting, again, that during the summer of 2024 and into the early fall of 2024, you were making a lot of phone calls to board members, the superintendent. Were you talking with the district's lawyer, Jason Stuckey? I have his phone number here too. Again, I can infer all day long. I'm allowed to do that. It's called thinking. I'm not saying a law was broken. I mean, it's illegal. Soliciting money from people to pay yourself back for Super Bowl tickets is a first-degree misdemeanor with a $5,000 fine. But again, that would involve a prosecution, a court summons, things like that. I have no proof that any of that happened. I just know that all of this took place while he was on the board. He panicked during the summer of 2024, tried to get my show shut down because he didn't like what was being published. I published an article on Substack, again, open records requests, in his own words, describing how he wants to shut down the public comments section of the board meetings and strip the board from being able to use YouTube. And he wanted the superintendent's help in that effort, and he also wanted the other board members to potentially take it up and vote for it. Well, none of that happened, but that's what he tried to do because he was afraid of people coming up to the microphone and saying things like this. Again, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you don't like what someone is saying, turn it off. Go listen to something else. He's not worth my time. That's the funniest part. Now again, regarding any court proceeding, this is very simple, and I'll break it down for him because, again, he sent this from an email address that he apparently decided to make on Proton Mail. Okay, good for him. Or someone made it, I don't know, pretending to be him, who's to say? The way that it works is this. Number one, proving defamation is remarkably hard to do. And attempting to be compensated for it is also very hard to do. It's a difficult task. Most courts throw them out. You pay the filing fee, which is at least $400, out of your own pocket. The court looks at it and says, give me a break. This is a waste of our time. And then they respond back and they say, sorry, we're not moving forward with this. And then that's it. And they throw it out. However, if it proceeds, as he even referenced, the discovery phase, this is where it would be very damning for him. Because every single record of him as a sitting board member would instantly be withdrawn and taken into account, rather, and by taken out or withdrawn, rather, I mean off of the servers that Talawanda holds as a school board and as a school district regarding any email communication, phone record, or any of the above with his name on it, and every single email would be unredacted. Courts do not take into consideration redactions. No. They unredact everything. Which means if they find a crime that anybody engaged in during discovery, not only will they throw the case out, they might prosecute the individual engaging in the lawsuit, engaging in the discovery phase. This happens too. And then, of course, not only would they throw it out, but if there were any court costs that were incurred by me, he would be forced to pay me back. So he would be out at least $800 plus, a ruling that wouldn't go in his favor. And that's the end of it. Because what? He did all of this on the record, and I'm inferring and making conclusions based on evidence. I get to do that. Anybody gets to do that. Let me give you another example. O.J. Simpson. I wasn't there the night that O.J. Simpson allegedly killed his ex-wife and waiter, Ron Goldman. I wasn't there. But I can infer by putting evidence together that OJ did it. I don't care why David Bathurst resigned from the board, but I know that he had reason to, and I can infer that. I'm sitting here looking at, again, Ethics Commission authority paperwork that I filed. And another party filed against him as well. I believe the same year that he resigned. I could have that wrong, but it was certainly, again, when he was sitting on the board. But he's not on the board anymore, so I don't care about him. He doesn't matter. In fact, let me give you basically one more example. This is rather interesting, and again, open records requests are fun. This is a particular email that I have in my possession via an open records request that states the following, and this was coming from a school employee within the district, within the same district. And I believe this could have been back on, I don't know, 2022, I think, somewhere in there. I don't have the exact date, but anyway, it says the following, quote, "It is very important to keep in mind that you should never consider any communications with school board members to be private or confidential. Any written communications, whether by email, text, letter, telegram, carrier pigeon, etc., are considered public records and subject to disclosure to anyone making a public records request," unquote. Do you know who wrote that? A David Annabelle, the former co-president of the teachers union and former school psychologist at Kramer Elementary School. That's sound advice. I don't know this David Annabelle person personally, I've never met them, don't care about them either. But that's sound advice. That when you take a position of any kind, in particular when you have some kind of a business email, when you're working for a government entity, anybody can do an open records request. Anybody can publish particular things and, again, make inferences. That's 100% legal. Now, again, just in conclusion, like I said, I don't care why he left the school district. I don't care why he left the school board. It's none of my concern. I don't care. But I can infer, and if it walks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, well, he was clearly under a lot of pressure. I remember a board meeting where I think it was the public comments portion toward the end, or not public comments, but board comments, and he went on some rant saying that he was done and he was going to prepare to resign and XYZ because he's tired of all the division and the whatever else and blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't care. He quit because he's a quitter. That's all. He quit. He couldn't take it. He was being investigated twice by the Ethics Commission. He tried to get my show shut down. That didn't work. He tried shutting up the public. Tried taking the board meetings, or talking about trying to take the board meetings off of YouTube to be viewed by the public. But somehow I'm his problem. I'm telling you, the discovery phase would flatten someone like him, and it would flatten anybody, because it won't work out in his favor. So you can do what any lawyer would tell you to do, which is exactly why you didn't send me any of those emails on legal letterhead from a lawyer, is because a lawyer would say, just stop listening to his show. That's what a lawyer would tell you to do. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I like the law, and I read the law for fun. So I'll give you free legal advice. Just stop listening. Everybody has that right because, well, it's the whole Constitution thing. You know, those silly amendments. They exist for a reason. I'm not going so far in claiming that David Bathurst broke any law. I have no idea. I don't know that. I don't know if he was even held accountable. Like I said, there's no way I would know. But I also know that I don't trust him, and I know that he's a liar, because he's proven it on the record before. Again, in my email exchange, I asked him to deny soliciting money for $5,000 while being a school board member for Super Bowl tickets, and he didn't respond to that. As I've said before on the show, if someone says that a particular thing occurred based on evidence and an inference that they're making that's been sent to them, where the dots are on top of each other, and you make mention of this to them to respond and they don't, well, that doesn't look good, does it? And like I said, the discovery phase would be remarkably detrimental. And there isn't a lawyer who would want to engage in any of that. They wouldn't. Because they don't know him from a hole in the wall. Which means, again, if they come across damning information that David Bothist would have to pay for, of course, hourly rates and whatnot, approximately $300 to $400 an hour, they would come across all of his behavior, whatever it may be, when he sat on the board. So he would be out legal fees also, and then the lawyer would drop the case and say, you don't have a case here. So, yeah, just change the channel. I don't bring you up on my show anyway, hardly ever. You're beneath me. It's not worth my time. Not to mention, rumor has it, you have lots of reasons to be emotionally distraught, and I'm not one of them. Now, I could mention a number of things right now having to do with you and your, let's say, extracurricular activities. It'd be a real shame if that came out in discovery also, because in a defamation case where you're trying to prove, again, emotional, distraught behavior and I'm feeling pain and blah, 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 all kinds of things would come out. Just go buy a mirror and look in it, and then ask yourself, who's the problem? And then look in the mirror. There's your problem. Again, it's funny when the bullies themselves, so to speak, and I mean that word is so, I don't know, it's so old. I don't even think anybody uses it anymore, but when individuals like that play the victim, they again are almost always the perpetrator. They're the victimizer. And the reason that they use that word, I'm being bullied, or I was bullied out of my position, or I quit because I was tired of this, that, or the other, that's all fine and dandy. But the fact is that they don't like accountability. They detest it. So then, of course, when they're being held accountable via oversight from public individuals in their government position, because that's what the public is supposed to do with government, is, again, provide oversight and hold them accountable, they use name-calling and play the victim and whine and moan, and they do all of that stuff because that's what happens. Accepting responsibility for one's own actions is a little more difficult, certainly for them, and people in positions like that. So, yeah, that's the end of it. Don't email me again. And if you do, I'll read your email on the show, thereby exposing you even more, which I should actually just finish with this. That's the funniest part of the whole thing, is you personally emailed me in your personal capacity claiming that you're the victim of something. An email that you email me publicly is public record. You're doing the thing that you claim you don't want people to do. You're making your own voice and your own written word public record. Why? Stop typing. Listen to something else. Go away. Again, a lawyer with a brain in their skull would say, why are you emailing him? If he bothers you so, why are you emailing him? Why are you listening to his show? This is why I haven't been sued. It's very simple. It's the First Amendment to the Constitution. It's remarkably broad. It's one hell of an amendment. And it's there to protect you also. But when you're a government official and you type things out, and there are formal investigations taking place, people of the public get to infer. And I get to make an inference, which means I get to arrive at my own conclusion and share my conclusion. But like I said, I have no proof that that was the sole reason or even a piece of the reason as to why he left. I mean, hell, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. One last thing. I keep saying I'm done, and then I have another thought. What's funny about the Discovery Phase 2 are all of the other people that he would be implicating. Because when those emails are revealed in a court of law and unredacted, there are endless names that are in emails, as we all know. Emails are sent to and from groups of people. Numerous people's names, of course, would become unredacted. Those individuals, again, would be drug into whatever it is that he's claiming he's going to do. For what? For a person's First Amendment right, a person's opinion, and a person who actually connects dots and does it consistently and rather well, I might add. I mean, I'm not bad at it. But I also don't put the cart before the horse, and I don't leap before I look. Again, you would think that anybody sitting on a school board would know to do that themselves, but many don't. As I've, of course, brought up on the show and published publicly, the local school board in the school district where I live leaps before they look all of the time to their own detriment, and they don't stop doing it. They just do it by nature. It's like breathing. They do it without even thinking about it. I mean, I wish they'd quit, but it's like, all right, if you're going to keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting caught, and papers are going to continue to be filed, and complaints are continually going to be made, and, well, that's just the way that it's going to go if you keep doing it. So, yeah, don't email ever again. It's not worth your time, and it's certainly not worth mine. Already wasted 32 minutes on this. But it's educational, so thanks for providing everybody this free legal explanation and education. Okay, moving on. Now check this out. Geopolitically, of course, Big Brother is back. That's no good. I was kind of waiting for the government to, well, not reopen. That would have been neat. Either way, there's this particular X thread I wanted to read here from a channel that I've read from before, rather. Observing consciousness, and here's what they said again regarding kind of the bigger picture as they see it regarding this government shutdown and what's looming now. They said the following, quote, "This is bigger than some realize. Let's tease this out some. The government reopened on terms that end the old spending machine." And then a thread. "The Democrats agreed to a structure that forces every hidden funding channel into daylight for all to see. No omnibus, bundling foreign aid, and no automatic renewals of the networks that operated in the dark. The pressure is now staged across January and February. No, this doesn't end here, it's only starting. Each deadline draws a new layer of the structure into view. This move secured position. The ground shifted toward open visibility. Spending is now traced line by line and vote by vote. The old guard lost their grip." They went on and said the old order relied on one move, push everything into a single oversized spending package, giving nobody time to even read it. No light, no record, no accountability. Now that structure is finished. Side note real quick, this is exactly what Thomas Massie was advocating for, and has been advocating for this entire time. Starting to make me wonder whether or not Massie is in with the good guys and in with Trump on all of this. Trump makes fun of him, but what does that do to Massie? It elevates him. Because again, Thomas Massie's been advocating for this for a very long time. I'm going to vote no on all of these bills and all of these spending bills because they're loaded with garbage. So instead of voting on each individual line item, one at a time as its own bill, which is what should happen, I mean, again, rather common sense, I think, but instead of doing that, they throw everything together and then they make everybody vote on a giant thing all of the time. It goes on, it says, "This is key. Watch. Funding now moves in 2 phases. January 19th, February 2nd. These dates function as pressure gates. The timing itself reveals the network. January exposes defense and national infrastructure. Global projection lives here. Contractors, intelligence routing, foreign stationing, cyber and space build-out. Once viewed directly, this pattern is clear. February exposes the domestic operating system. Border flow coordination, NGO distribution networks, public health command chains, education narrative scaffolding. Follow the funding, and the architecture stands in full view for everyone to see. No bundling foreign aid entered this agreement. No border trades. No quiet Ukraine channels. Every request, now stands alone before the public. Every vote carries a name. We see you. Continuity moves through design. Power shifts when the flow of authorization changes. Recognition arrives through sequence, not announcement. The laddered CR keeps government functions active while preventing the old channels from rebuilding themselves. Operations continue, concealment does not. Signals now forming, border funding posture in January, foreign aid separated into single-issue floor votes, Treasury alignment inside defense appropriations, audit triggers embedded in February, agency texts, it says, and then track the pattern. The awareness rises layer by layer. We see the system clearly now. The Republic returns through exposure and integration. January begins the next movement. The shift is in motion now. Stay observant and hold position. We see them, and they know we see them. Unquote. I would say that the number of both Democrats and Republicans in this whole process that were just publicly exposed and just got neutered again on a stage is pretty incredible. But again, it can't be forgotten that this is, again, the very thing that Thomas Massie has been advocating for quite some time. He's said it on the record so many times. People's ears should be bleeding based on how many times he's said it. Again, these bills and these funding bills and spending bills that always get passed are loaded with garbage all of the time. Again, if you want to fund the government, just vote to fund the government. It doesn't have to come with 100 other things. There was also this particular story, again, same wavelength, and it had to do again with not only opening the government, but there were comments that people were making online saying that every single Doge, how do I phrase this? Every single Doge person who was finding waste, fraud, and abuse and then ultimately cutting people loose from their positions and firing them and letting them go, that all of those positions of all of those people, specifically the people themselves who lost their jobs because the jobs were, again, found to be useless, allegedly, that all of that is undone now as a result, and all of those people are getting their jobs back. And people were online saying that, like, Trump betrayed everybody, and this is the way that it is, and now all those Doge cuts are coming back, and all the jobs that people lost, they got their jobs back, and blah, blah, blah. None of that's true. It isn't true. Even the Associated Press said the following. Again, I'm paraphrasing them, but they said that 100 managers or office managers within, again, particular areas of government were told that if they want to return to their jobs by the end of this week, they can. But if they don't, then their position will be eliminated, or again, they themselves just won't have a job. But see, government's been shut down for so long, and those Doge positions, or I should say the Doge brothers and, the Doge gang and all of those Department of Government Efficiency individuals, when they were going through all of these positions and cutting these people loose, that was a long time ago. That was many months ago, which means, again, those individuals probably found employment elsewhere. And you're only talking 100 people. So again, I don't know where people are basically, getting confused and openly saying, well, again, all those people that were cut loose now got their jobs back. No. If you were cut loose from a position 5 months ago, you're not going to sit around waiting for that job to come back open again. Certainly not after a government shutdown. In fact, the government shutdown action itself would solidify the fact that you would have to find work elsewhere. Because they'd say, look, even if I wanted my job back, which I can't get because I was just cut loose, well, now I'm really not going to get it because government's not even funded, which means I'm not going to get paid, which means they're not even going to hire anybody, which they didn't. During the government shutdown, people leave their jobs on their own accord. That happens all of the time. It's happened every time the government shut down. Again, very good people have lost their jobs or have been furloughed, and I fully understand that, and I mean, that stinks. No doubt about it. At the exact same time, a lot of bad people lost their jobs too, and a lot of people left on their own accord also. Some people got repositioned, which again is fine if they're ethically sound human beings. But of course, if bad people got repositioned, well, there you have it. They're still there then, which means you still have a problem. I think it was even Pete Hegseth the other day. He openly said that one of the biggest enemies that our country has is the bureaucratic state of the Department of Defense, or Department of War now. And of course, the Pentagon holdovers and all of those individuals that are lifers. No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. That again was one of the reasons why they came forward and they said every single general and or person serving, regardless of your position, regardless of your age and whoever you are, is going to have to engage in a 1-year physical examination and a fitness test. I mean, a bunch of those huge dudes just looked at each other like, F that, I'm not doing that. And then they quit. It was a great move. You mean I have to do push-ups and sit-ups now? And I have to do a certain amount within a certain time frame? No. And then, of course, they won't. And then they leave. Fine by me. No sweat off our back. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff. But as all of that's happening, this leads me to the next thing, equally as alarming, if not more alarming. The Islamification and continued Islamification of our country. This is becoming a problem. I have some audio here I'd like to play. But before I do, let me mention this too. Again, I had a lot of quote-unquote Muslim audio in the last war video. It is a problem. It's not becoming a problem. It's been a problem, and it's continuing to be a problem. I think the takeaway that anybody, when they, again, view any of these videos or listening to anybody talk about Islam, is that it is not a religion of peace by any stretch of the imagination. It is a religion or a philosophy, as it's even been called, which again legally begs the question whether or not it falls under the First Amendment, and whether or not they should be given the same rights as anybody else. But either way, that's a debate for another time. The point is that it is their ideology and or philosophy to conquer. That's it. It's not to live in peace. It's to rid the world of everybody who is not them. And this is a level of seriousness that I don't think people can grasp. They would do well, again, to basically sit in a very quiet room and say that to themselves over and over again. That if this philosophy and or religion, however you want to phrase it, that those individuals, that their sole mission, as far as their God is concerned, is to destroy everybody who is not them, that means that even the woke, deranged, do-gooding leftards and all of the people out there who align with that side of the so-called political spectrum, that those individuals will be the ones who are run over first. Those are the ones who are currently being taken advantage of, because they're aligning themselves with this Muslim philosophy and this Islamic philosophy, again, because they're do-gooders. And they're virtue signalers, and they're all of the things that they are. And they're claiming diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, oh, look, we're diverse now because a Muslim sits on our board. Or we're diverse now because we hired half a dozen Muslims into these positions within our company, institution, etc., etc. People don't understand that this, again, is their ideology, is to conquer and destroy. It's to take every position, including the positions of the people who are advocating for them, who are not Muslims. Give this audio breakdown a listen here for about 2 minutes. This is on TikTok. A Roya, no way I get that, AZADI16, I believe. Anyway, she hits it out of the park with this nice, concise explanation. Give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Islamists will never assimilate. Look at Zoran Mamdani, who was raised by millionaire elitist parents. His father is a Columbia professor, and his mother is a successful filmmaker who gets bankrolled by Qatar. They have more money than 99% of the American population and own properties in different parts of the world. They could have chosen to assimilate and adopt Western values, but instead his father says in his book, we need to recognize the suicide bomber as a category of soldier. Suicide bombing needs to be understood as a feature of modern political violence rather than stigmatized as a mark of barbarism. And like his father, he supports jihadists and doesn't condemn globalizing the intifada. They will say what they think everyone else wants to hear. They will lie through their duper's delight smiles. They will pretend to be victims of Islamophobia and be all about humanitarian causes only to get useful idiots on their side. Islamists are snakes. How do you think 56 countries became Muslim majority when Islam started only in one? This has been their pattern for 1400 years, except now they're using the same playbook in modern context to gain political power. They won't stop until the whole world bows to Islam. This is their core belief and it's never going to change. You think by now it would be easy for the rest of us who value freedom and life to see through their taqiyya, but most of you don't even know what that is. When I was Muslim, I was told firsthand that it's okay to lie, so long as it advances Islam. That's what taqiyya means, and we're all being played.
We came here to remake this state in the image of our people.
Now, that last piece of audio there, that last guy, of course, was Zohan himself. So, anyway, she's 100% right. And I've brought up taqiyya before on the show. That it is in the so-called Muslim philosophy to deceive everybody, to gain for themselves, to lie all of the time. Again, Muslim school board members saying things like, we care about all students. That's a lie. They don't. They only care about Muslim students. We care about the community. No, they don't. They care about their community, the Muslim community. That's it. Again, they use the do-gooders and the virtue signalers around them as pawns, lying right to their faces, so that they advance themselves, so they think. So once the do-gooders are wiped out, once the virtue signalers are wiped out, once they're all outnumbered and once they're gone, if we're still alive, then you're going to have an actual physical war on American soil between Christians, Muslims, and who knows, Jews might try to get in the middle of all of it at some point or another. But either way, it's only a matter of time. As she just described, they've been doing this for over 1,000 years. It's what they do. Look at London. Look what's happened to London. Look what's happened to Ireland. Look what's happened to Dearborn, Michigan. Now you have New York City, where allegedly 5,000 police officers in NYC are about to resign. 5,000. Who are they going to hire? Are they going to hire anybody? Businesses are leaving. People are making videos who live in Florida, and they're saying, don't come here, New Yorkers. We don't want you here. We aren't interested in your kind. It's an interesting state of affairs here, but it's a war. And it's right here, and it's right in front of everybody's faces. But too many people, again, are occupied by sports ball and nonsense to actually pay attention to what's really happening here. This is a problem. People need to wake up from the hypnosis. I'm not going to bend a knee to Islam. Are you kidding me? You have to be joking. Over my dead body. It's not going to happen. The unfortunate part is that they take a very similar approach, although they're a little more brazen about it. Whereas, again, a Zionist would sort of sit in the shadows or crawl out of a sewer and basically whisper something from time to time, although they find their way to a microphone, claiming to not be a Zionist, and then they say something of a particular nature that's, a bit alarming. Whereas these individuals have no problem screaming into a microphone with endless cameras on them, telling everybody exactly what they have planned. It's a different approach. But at the exact same time, the one thing that both of those categories of individuals, so to speak, do share is they seek to take over positions of power. And it, again, begs the question, where do you think the Muslims learned it? I think we know who taught them, don't you? Once they take these positions of power and influence, so to speak, well, then they can do basically whatever they'd like. And before you know it, your little town or your little city is going to start having Muslim chants over loudspeakers, and everybody's going to have to put up with it. Or are you going to put up with it? Now, with that aside, although, again, same vein, this was Dearborn, Michigan. Case in point, this specifically, again, was on X. And this was on the channel, again, at Amuse. I have some questions about their account, but that's for another subject for another time. Anyway, it was titled Islamification in Dearborn, Michigan. A Muslim Brotherhood teacher explains Americans are, quote, uncivilized and backward, despite their technology adding, quote, Allah sent us to civilize them. Christians are so jealous of us. Again, this is, Muslim Brotherhood dude. He's in some building. It could be, I don't know, a mosque of some kind or some makeshift mosque. And it looks like he's talking to a group of youth. These do not look like older gentlemen that he's talking to. They look like high school students and younger than that. So give this psycho a listen in 3, 2, 1.
All this advancement in technology, yet they still haven't figured out that when you go to the bathroom, they're still wiping themselves with paper. All this advancement, think about how advanced they've become. They're trying to go to Mars. They're trying to take over Saturn. They're trying to do all this stuff. Their cars are trying to be self-driven. Yet when they go to do the most lowest form of human nature, the call of nature, they're still wiping themselves and cleaning themselves. They're uncivilized. Do not be tricked and deceived by their technology. Do not be tricked and deceived by their philosophies and their westernizations and their ideas. At the end of the day, they are still backwards. Allah has sent us to these nations to civilize them. That's why Allah has sent us to civilize these people. Yet the media makes us look like the barbaric ones. The reason they don't want you to be successful is because they're jealous of what you have. The Christians, jealous of what you have. Their nations, their religions are dying. So what they had to do, they had to change their religion. You don't believe me? We went to churches and they're now having the LGBT flags over there. A'udhu billah. Imagine your business, your religion is dying so much that the only thing that you could do is go and get some help from the LGBT. That's just the condition. Because their religion is dying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us into the nations to guide these people from the darkness into the light.
He seems nice. So let's review. Apparently, because we use toilet paper, we're not civilized. Interesting. So that would imply that, well, that's an open admission that they wipe themselves with their hands. Bare hands. Classy. On top of that, he has a point when it comes to, of course, the gays and infiltrating the church and allowing all of that, of course, to take place. That's, of course, their approach as well. Where did they learn that from? I think we know. Satan. And on top of that, he openly admits, of course, that they're using that, thinking that that's somehow going to protect them. He's openly saying it won't protect them. It's leading to, again, their disintegration. But it's a calculated destruction. It's not an accident. Again, they're so backwards that, again, the psychological projection is astounding. This is a philosophy. Again, I would go so far as to say it's not a religion. It's clearly satanic, and there's terrible things associated with it, like, of course, the public flogging of men and women, specifically women, i.e. via Sharia law. among other things, the beating of girls and boys, the rape of boys, the legal rape of boys in those particular countries. Bachabazi, look that up, it's disgusting. And this happens again with regularity. Their own wardrobe, for God's sakes, that the females wear implies persecution. It implies enslavement. Cover your head, cover your face, because we tell you to. Well, that's not very civilized, is it? That's why it's not compatible with us. It never will be. And don't even get me started on the inbreeding. I mean, that's legal for them too. Sleeping with cousins, siblings, etc., etc. This is what they have planned. Now let me slide into education with this too. Talk about, again, a culture that's not really compatible with ours, the Chinese. Recall, again, during the first Trump administration, where the Confucius centers, of course, were popping up left and right and infiltrating colleges and universities. And then, of course, it was found that they were Chinese spy operations. That's a fact, by the way. It's not speculation. The DOJ was removing Confucius centers for that exact reason. As a result, of course, they went away, or a great deal of them did. I'm certain not all of them. Excuse me. Some of them, of course, rebranded. They were given different names. Again, kept the same people or similar people, certainly with similar ideologies, and then continued to communicate with the individuals in and around a particular area, if not foreign countries themselves. Hence, of course, a spy operation. Miami University used to have a Confucius Center here in town. It went away, and, well, there's another center that's in town, which I think is highly suspect. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. What do I know? However, Donald Trump was on Laura Ingram's show and mentioned, of course, the business of bringing in and allowing colleges and universities to enroll 600,000 Chinese students from China. This, at face value, I'll say it's alarming. And it seems a bit like a reversal. Because back during the first Trump administration, and certainly during Obama, if I was just using the university campus in the town where I live as a litmus test, it was packed with Asians. Packed to the gills with Asians. Supercars everywhere, the whole thing. And if you've ever seen one of these individuals in a post office, I have to tell you, it's highly entertaining and alarming at the same time. With that said, this, again, is alarming in its own right. And Laura Ingram kind of says, what the hell are you doing? What is this about? I'm going to play this audio clip, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper and do some theorizing here. So give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have. China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans?
You would have the
historically, the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have, I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
Do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology with, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. You know, the students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive. But at the same time, I know you and I disagree.
Yeah.
We're never going to agree on
No.
it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them, but I view it as a business. We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. You know, people are shocked. Remember, Hillary Clinton said, we'll be in a war. I stopped 8 wars in the last 9 months. I don't want to be in wars. If I am in a war, we're going to win the thing fast and it'll be violent. But
Speaking
you know what? I don't want to be in wars. But one thing, you don't want to cut half of the people, half of the students from all over the world that are coming into our country, destroy our entire university and college system. I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't lose anything.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
Now, he basically let the cat out of the bag here. As far as he's concerned, or apparently the people around him, this is a business transaction. This has to do, again, with bringing money into these universities for tuition and XYZ, living expenses, housing, what have you. Boosting the economy with, of course, the money that they bring over, because if they have the money to come over from a foreign country, well, then they probably have some money and then they spend it here. I understand it from a business standpoint. However, I think there is a larger problem, and it's rather obvious. We can't vet every single one of these people, even though there might be a vetting process, so to speak. But who's to say again that these individuals, won't be recruited by bad elements of our own government, let alone the institutions themselves? And then you've heard, of course, Donald Trump even say that when individuals obtain college diplomas, and I think I'm getting this right, that if an individual comes here, spends money here, and is educated here, then they should become a legal citizen. Again, I think that's a problem. So let me read through this, and again, I wouldn't normally do this necessarily, but it's an interesting little breakdown on Grok over here on the old AI system. And I simply said, what are the proposed reasons for allowing 600,000 foreign students into our country to enroll in colleges and universities? It said the following. Economic contributions, a primary proposed reason for admitting large numbers of foreign students, often cited as around 600,000 annually in recent data, is their substantial economic impact. International students contribute billions to the U.S. economy through tuition, housing, and spending. For instance, they generated over $40 billion in economic activity in the 23-24 academic year, supporting jobs in education, hospitality, and retail. Universities rely on this revenue to subsidize operations, as foreign students typically pay full out-of-state or higher tuition rates without access to federal aid. Policymakers and higher education leaders argue this influx helps offset declining domestic enrollment and rising costs, bolstering local economies in college towns. Now, let me interject something here. If you take Miami University into consideration, Miami University is approximately $30 million in debt. If they take in Chinese students, that's not going to be a drop in the bucket when it comes to paying off that debt. Because where does the money really go? It goes into buildings, it goes into projects, it goes into other initiatives, it goes into people's salaries, and the money is laundered and stolen. That's typically what happens. That's one of the reasons, again, why they raise tuition. They don't raise tuition to knock away their debt. They raise tuition to take more and steal more from people who are brainwashed and gullible to still attend, when they could very easily, as I've said a million times, do it online for half the cost, approximately. So again, this is a bit of an issue. Laura Ingraham brought up an excellent point, I thought, where she said, who cares? So what? It's a perfect rebuttal. Again, I'm not a fan of hers by any stretch either, but again, she openly said, so what? Let the colleges and universities fail. Let them decline. They don't need to have so many branch campuses. Again, Miami University has numerous branch campuses. For what? What's the point? Yes, they hire a great deal of people, again, to maintain the property and do a number of different things. Of course, everything from administration down to somebody waxing the floors. I fully get it. And I understand that those jobs have to exist when an institution exists. Again, I'm not bashing that by any stretch of the imagination. It just has to do with, well, so what? Colleges and universities do crumble under the weight of their own fiscal negligence all of the time. That's not a bad thing. And as far as HBCUs are concerned, how many Asians have you ever seen at a historically black college or university? I mean, I'm going to say not many, but they might change their enrollment standards to bring in that foreign money. It's quite possible. But again, doesn't that just mean that they're playing the tune of the bank, and again, they're just fattening up their wallets? It just doesn't seem good. And again, who cares if an HBCU completely collapses because, again, of their fiscal negligence? Let it happen. It doesn't matter the location of the university or who attends. If there's bad people running it, well, there are consequences to that. But there shouldn't be foreign student tuition bailout. That's my 2 cents. It's my opinion, but yeah. This explanation goes on. It says talent pipeline and innovation. Another key rationale is building a future workforce for high-skill industries. Foreign students, particularly in STEM fields, fill critical gaps in U.S. talent pools. About 60% of international students study STEM subjects. Well, that's too bad. And many graduates stay via optional practical training. There we go, OPT. Or H-1B visas contributing to tech, engineering, and research sectors. Proponents including industry groups like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is Howard Lutnick, if I'm not mistaken, highlight this system as produced innovators. Over half of Silicon Valley startups have immigrant founders. I'm not going to say that's a good thing. Allowing such numbers is seen as essential for maintaining U.S. competitiveness in global innovation, especially amid domestic shortages in fields like AI and biotechnology. I don't think AI and biotechnology are good things. I just don't. It provides 2 more explanations, cultural and diplomatic benefits. It says admitting foreign students is proposed as a soft power strategy to foster international goodwill and cultural exchange. Programs like Fulbright, not good, emphasize how these students return home with positive views of the United States, strengthening alliances and trade ties. With 600,000 plus students from over 200 countries, this diversity enriches campuses, promoting global perspectives and reducing xenophobia. This is why AI sucks. Because it just said that. Reducing xenophobia. No, we don't have a fear of them. We just don't want them here. It's different. We don't cower when they show up. That's not it. We don't want them here. We want Americans to have these jobs. We want Americans to be trained properly for these jobs. We want Americans to be interested in these jobs, but not in AI and biotechnology. That's being used, of course, to tighten the invisible cell around us, which isn't so invisible anymore. It goes on, it says, government reports from the State Department note it enhances U.S. intelligence in regions like Asia and Africa, where alumni often become leaders. Here's the problem, though. If they receive a diploma here, and then they're gifted citizenship, they're not going to leave. They're going to stay. And many of them do stay. They come here for the education, they get a work visa, they work, and then they become a citizen during that process, and then they stay. Again, infiltration instead of invasion. It's a Q post, by the way. Many Q posts, actually. Here's the last one, institutional and enrollment sustainability. Colleges and universities advocate for this scale to maintain enrollment and research capacity. Demographic shifts, for example, fewer U.S. high school graduates, make international students vital. They comprise 5 to 6% of total enrollment, but a higher share at top institutions. Well, again, not everybody needs to go to college, and that's not a bad thing. It says without them, programs in niche areas could close, harming academic quality. The proposed volume aligns with visa allocations under F1J1 categories, calibrated to meet institutional demands without overwhelming infrastructure. These reasons are drawn from reports by organizations like NAFSA, the Association of International Educators, not good, and the Institution of International Education, reflecting bipartisan support in policy circles, though debates persist on immigration controls and equity, unquote. Again, that last explanation, another reason to detest AI. Because, unfortunately, there's a lot of gross truth in all of that. So, yeah. It might be short-term money-making, but it could be a long-term problem. And it could be a short-term problem. So, I'm against it personally. I say again, these colleges and universities, again, are not MAGA by any stretch. I think that goes without saying. Let them collapse under the weight of their own stupidity. Don't bring in foreign money and 4 years of tuition with cutting one check on day one and think that that's going to be the solution to all of this. Again, even if Howard Lutnick has these individuals coming in and paying to be citizens, and paying, again, whatever it is, 6 figures or 7 figures or more, to come in here and be citizens, the money's going to run out, but the invasion and infiltration will continue. This is dangerous, I think. Case in point, this was from the Federalist the other day, and it was titled, Mamdani's Vast Support Among the College-Educated Tells Us All We Need to Know About Higher Ed. This was written by a Helen Raleigh, and it said the following here. Voters with a bachelor's degree or higher largely supported Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani, I hate his name and hate saying it, in the New York City mayoral race. As political analyst Byron York noted on X.com, quote, the non-degreed tried valiantly to save the city from the degree-holding horde. There just wasn't enough of them, unquote. The election results suggest that our higher education system is broken and must undergo significant changes to prevent socialism from taking over America. There's also this particular portion here, I think, which could be brought up, and I'm not going to read the rest of the article, but you're welcome to bounce over there and check it out. I think I linked it on my social media accounts as well. Either way, if the individuals coming over here from foreign countries are taught about American culture accurately, and they assimilate, which again, the first one is a tall ask, the second one on top of the first one is perhaps a taller ask, but if that happens, and they again assimilate properly, I have seen some foreign individuals openly again advocate for America once they become American citizens, and they say things like, I came from this country, that is a foreign country, not America, to come here and to only find out that there are actually people who advocate, who are American-born citizens who advocate for the destruction of their own country and the destruction of freedom and freedom of speech and freedom of expression and all of that, which was the enemy that they were leaving from their foreign country, to only find that their enemy still exists right here. They're only just American citizens. And it blows them away that this is even possible. Me personally, I've met individuals, again, who are African, a great deal of them, as a matter of fact, certainly when I was in graduate school. And that's exactly what they said. They were shocked. Now, some of them were full-blown Marxists and communists, but some of them were like me. They were American-loving, freedom-loving individuals who detested communism and authoritarianism by any stretch of the imagination. They couldn't believe that American-born citizens who are white and every other race imaginable would actually advocate for the destruction of their own country. Getting foreign individuals to come over here and understand that that is a thing and that that is a problem, and that they would do well to not do that is a tough ask, not to mention They're entering the college environment where they're going to be taught it. They're going to be taught to hate this country. And that's been happening for quite some time. Well over 100 years, if not longer. So again, short-term financial gain at the expense of what? I just don't think it's worth it. It's too much headache right out of the gate and again in the long run. But that's my 2 cents. In fact, this is a good place to end the education portion of this show because this continues to be a head scratcher to me. And again, I don't see an easy way out of this other than the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth, or whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help us God. Because this right here is not the truth. This is peak deception in these particular institutions and locations. This was from archive.ph, which, side note, by the way, the FBI is investigating the shareholders, not shareholders, that's wrong terminology, the server holders and the people who run these archive websites and keep these stories on these archive websites. And it's unfortunate because these archive websites are fantastic. They exist for the purpose of keeping these stories around because, of course, the servers that these news outlets run, they, of course, get rid of their old stories after X amount of time, but these archive websites keep them for a very long time. But either way, I think it's highly suspect that they're being investigated. But anyway, this was on archive.ph, and this was from, let's see, out of Washington, D.C., written by a Hannah Nightingale. It was titled from American News, Breaking Violence and Arrests at Berkeley as Antifa Swarms TPUSA Event Mocks Charlie Kirk's Death. Now, the headline alone is, again, the problem. I'm not going to read the full article, but this is why this is an issue. You have Americans eating each other over something that didn't happen, that they think happened, that the current administration is perpetuating. Erica Kirk, quote unquote, Fran Sev, or whatever the hell her name is, she was in the Oval Office the other day. God knows why. With her terrible acting skills and crying out of one eye, yet no tears appear. She gets interviewed by Jesse Waters, and then Jesse Waters takes to YouTube and other channels and says that he's turning to Jesus after listening to Erica Kirk and interviewing her. If that's true, then he's not turning to Jesus. He's turning to Satan because this whole thing is deception. That's what all of this is. Again, these people chanting his name, holding up signs in these auditoriums put on by TPUSA. TPUSA, again, it's the toilet paper of our country. It's deception. It's terrible. I wonder if it stands for Terrible Propaganda USA, because again, that's what they're doing. They're creating copious amounts of division among the brainwashed on the proverbial left and the proverbial right, with all of the spoon bending back and forth. And they don't bother to take a 30,000-foot view and say, it didn't happen, you're both being deceived, and this happens all of the time, and has happened throughout the course of our history as a country all of the time. It's not good. Again, it's not shocking that it would happen at Berkeley. The shocking part is even I've said online under the comments section of their current CEO, whatever that guy's name is, I forget his name, doesn't matter. Point is I've openly said to him on X, I'm shocked that people keep believing that he's actually dead. That all of this continues to, again, divide people. The truth is the only unifier. I'm absolutely just blown away that more and more people are not coming out and saying that this was fake when it was obviously fake. Again, I watched, she's so hard to watch. I mean, it's temple rubbing insanity how bad of an actress Erica Kirk is. It's disgusting. But I watched, I'm not kidding, it was like 5 seconds of her responding to Jesse Waters. And she drops her head, she dabs her one eye, hides her face with her hair, and then big smiles. It's insane. She's either a schizophrenic with bipolar depression, or manic depression, or multiple personality disorder, or she's just a really bad actress, or a combination of both. I just find it stunning that they couldn't have found someone better, more convincing, and more convincing. She's awful. But it just continues. Charlie Kirk, and all this chanting that they do, and somebody gets a sign burned, and then someone gets punched in the face, and then someone gets arrested, and somebody doesn't arrest somebody, and back and forth. It's creating chaos over nothing. Over nothing. And again, if people are turning to Jesus over a deception, that's not Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen. That's the devil. Period. And the more that they talk about it, the more interviews they do, the more appearances that they make, the more that so-called Turning Point USA discusses this, the more they expose themselves. They're lying on top of lying on top of lying on top of lying, and it's exhausting. People are over it. And people are reading through it, which is good. A lot of people, again, are waking up to the fact that it was fake, didn't happen. Climb into the comments section. Bounce over to Jesse Waters' X page. Click on the media button to show all of the videos that he has of him and Erica Kirk, quote unquote, having a conversation where, again, she's dabbing her eyes and not crying. Weird. And then that weird whisper thing that she does, where she, again, normal talk, and then, oh my gosh, and then I said this, and then I told my kids this. And then she's back to talking normal again. But get into the comments section. It's hilarious. People are like, yep, Sandy Hook 2.0. You're not believable. You're the devil. I mean, it's just endless people saying that. And they're right. It's incredible. All right, I'm done ranting about that. Anyway, that continues to be a thing, which is alarming. Let's see. Jab-related stuff. Few medical things here, and then I'm going to play some audio from Renette Sunham and then wrap it up. Although I'm not rushing through this by any stretch, it's important. This was from Charles Wright's Substack, and it was titled Health Canada Seizes Ivermectin, Fenbendazole, Menbendazole of Ezra Healing Clinic, using it to treat cancer. That's not good. Again, those drugs have been proven to work with cancer. Case in point, Dr. Makis here. He has a particular case that he's mentioned here on his X page. I want to read this. New article, it says, Ivermectin and Fenbendazole testimonial. 60-year-old Nebraska woman with stage 4 lung cancer was saved from hospice after only 1 month. I recently helped save a cancer patient from hospice. The story, 60-year-old woman with stage 4 lung cancer in both lungs and bones inoperable. Originally diagnosed in 2020, post-chemorad, was in remission 18 months, but suffered aggressive reoccurrence with metastasis. It says tried Keytruda, but it didn't work. In November of 2024, had toxicity post first cycle of carboplatin and pemetrexed. Let's see, the drug is Alimta, A-L-I-M-T-A, Alimita, who knows, and was out of options, they said. Daughter then reached out to me. Treatment we initiated right away. Ivermectin, 1 milligram per kilogram per day. Fenbendazole, 888 milligrams per day. Melatonin, 300 milligrams per day. CBD oil, 50 milligrams per day. Results, quote, the plan from the oncologist was to then put her on hospice. After a month of treatment, the one spot in her shoulder, which was very large, is not lit up at all for cancer. The other 2 spots are still there but have not grown. He told her that they would not put her on hospice, but they will res can in 3 months. He never asked her what she was taking, just told her to keep doing what she's doing, unquote. Oncologists who don't care to find out what saved their patient from hospice, hint, ivermectin and fenbendazole. That's the state of oncology in the United States in 2025. Atrocious. Some of the worst oncologists in the world, and these are the ones who will come to X after getting their 8th mRNA booster and pontificate about how ivermectin most certainly doesn't work for cancer. And then it said a Prasda MD MPH among them. Is he fully boosted? Incompetence in medicine shouldn't be tolerated, and cancer centers in the United States are full of incompetence. Maybe Robert Kennedy Jr. and I can do something about that. I will happily fire whoever needs to be fired. We need a full reset in medicine. In the meantime, helping cancer patients one at a time, and there is only one place you will find testimonials like these, so sign up and follow. Article link in the photo to avoid shadow ban. Just retype the URL in the first photo, blah, 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 blah. There you go. Yeah, Makis's his Substack is solid. Some of the highlights, again, you can read online. Some people who subscribe will cut and paste his articles and post them other places on social media. A lot of his work fully pops up on greatawakening.win along with cancer protocols. And by the way, greatawakening.win is a great website for when you go and you know someone who has cancer. You get on there and you say, I'm new here. I have a family member who has cancer. Can you help? And then instantly you will be flooded with responses of people wanting to help. And that's a good thing. They have resources, places where you can buy, again, fenbendazole, ivermectin, etc., manufactured in the United States by and large. And there you go. So good for them. Again, hope it works out in the long run regarding the lung cancer. But yeah, that's promising news. Okay, Renette Sunham. This is interesting. She's specifically talking about, again, California, 5G, and the plan that the FCC has regarding implementation of what she openly says is 5G towers or 5G hookups every 750 feet all across America. That eventually this will come to your road and it will be implanted again every 750 feet. And she has links and descriptions on where, again, to basically push back as much as possible, certainly petitions, things of that nature. But even she says this could be a losing battle no matter what, but it's worth knowing that the enemy wants this in place to begin with. And you talk about amplifying illness, this would certainly do it. I'm going to end with this piece of audio from her. Again, foghornexpress.substack.com is her site over there. You can check out the video for yourself if you're interested as well. And I will leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for listening as always, and I'll catch you on Friday. Peace.
Everyone, this is Renette Sunham with Renette Sunham's foghornexpress.substack.com, and I am going to be sharing probably one of the more important videos I ever have. And this is a call to arms. I'm trying to get everyone's attention. This is really, for the most part, under the radar. And what am I talking about? Well, it ends up that the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has decided that they're going to change rules for how cell towers, antennas, 5G are deployed. And it's not just a change in rules, it's a complete evisceration of all local control. It is a corporate coup. And it is such a dangerous precedent because what it does is it is opening up a Pandora's box that's going to allow other corporations to come in and steamroll over all local authority to do whatever they want for their industry. So, where to start? Well, first of all, what the FCC is doing is essentially carte blanche, giving the telecom industry the ability to deploy these damn cell towers. And while we're all discussing the digital currencies and the surveillance state and social credit system, it sounds very ethereal. It sounds like it's not tangible and it can't be touched, it can't be seen, and we're just sitting there like deer in the headlights waiting to get hit by it. But what you don't realize is it is very, very tangible, and it so happens that it's very much in your face, and more than likely, it's in front of your home. It's down your country road. It's on your urban street, and I want you to take a look at this pole right here. See that pole? See that? Now, when you look up on that pole, you're going to see these big old lines right here. Big old huge broadband, and I want to talk to you about that. Okay. foghornexpress.substack.com, that's where you can find me. One reason why I want you to follow me and listen to what I have to say is because I'm not just an influencer who's going out there and pontificating. I'm talking about 15 years or so experience as a city council member, as a mayor, as an activist, as a person who has been pushing against the proliferation of cell towers and so on. And it has been a Herculean effort. And right now, the few little threads of authority and power we have to slow this down and protect us, just create a small little firewall, is about ready to be eviscerated. Why is this important? Because basically, you see these lines again. Let me tell you a little story. I've shared this story many times on Substack. I've shared this story in interviews. But when I was the mayor, when COVID struck in 2020, I was calling out a lot of the COVID lies that I was seeing right away. One of the other things that I was doing is I was going out, jumping in my car in the middle of the night, midnight, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And very quickly, I began to see between 3 and 5:30, a whole slew, like a small army of utility trucks coming into Nevada City, in Grass Valley, and going out, and they were going from pole to pole to pole, and they were extending these lines all the way to the next pole. And by 5:30, it was done with. They would just disappear before rush hour would start. Well, it ends up they were doing this night after night after night after night. And I had contacted Daphne Takeover, who was the head of the 5G department with Children's Health Defense California. I said, Daphne, this is what's going on, because Renette, it's happening across the country. Sure enough, it was. And then once the lockdowns were done, I started interviewing people around the world. Same thing happened to them. Massive cell tower, massive 5G rollout. Let me tell you, as a former elected official, in order for something like that to be initiated, it has to take years and years of preparation. We're talking coming up with the idea, laying out the plans, getting the approval, the budget, then hiring, training, buying, right? All the equipment, all the product, everything you need, the whole entire deployment, getting it all set up, ready to go for it to, bam, like that overnight, when we're all locked down, to begin. What does this have to do with this FCC rulemaking changes? Folks, the digital currency, the biometric surveillance system, the social credit score, that digital cage we're talking about, this right here is the backbone. This was laid out while everybody was locked behind their doors, thinking that they were safe and nothing was happening. And now what's happening is this: the backbone of this digital cage, this is literally the framework of the digital cage is laid out. It's there. And now what the FCC is doing is such incredible evil hijinks. So the FCC, there should be 5 commissioners. There's only 2 right now. They have a third one they want to appoint, but they can't appoint that third one until the government reopens. Once the government reopens, at that point in time, they're going to appoint that commissioner. Then they're going to open up public comment for this FCC rule change. Now, let me tell you, the FCC commissioners are all insiders. They're telecom, executives. They've been through that turnstile over and over and over again. And the FCC is absolutely 100% a captured agency. And they are now going for local authority. So what are they doing? They're going to remove every single little semblance of protection and say and authority we've ever had over these years. And I'm talking, it's a tiny little thread of firewall for us. They're going to obliterate and remove all of it. So no public comment, no notification to you, the city or your county supervisors, that these things are being installed, no review whatsoever, no setbacks for how and where and how high, no discussion about what they should look like, how many, how dense. All of that is going to be removed. And the one big thing that we always had in our favor was what's called gap in service. These telecoms, if they could not prove a gap in service, we could send them packing, and we did, and we have, and we continue to. And that is why the FCC, which is just nothing more than an extension, an arm of the telecom industry, they're literally removing all the little arguments we had to protect ourselves, and they're going to eviscerate all of it, including the gap in service. Why is this important? Well, right now, Children's Health Defense National, they have a petition they would like for you to sign. I will have the link below. And this is just to put your legislators on notice, like this is happening. They're going to destroy local control, local authority. No need to have county supervisors or city council members any longer, because every single industry out there can override them. That's how dangerous. This is literally a coup. So we need to notify our legislators that this is not okay and they have to stop it. Unlikely, but you got to do it. And you use that petition as a talking point. So when you're standing in the grocery line or at the bank or talking to your neighbors or at a potluck or whatever, the farmer's market, you talk about this FCC rule change, this proposal. And so what we do is we petition our legislators and say, not okay. Then when the government reopens, and maybe we'll be lucky and it won't reopen, I don't know. Once it reopens, then that means the FCC is going to get their third commissioner. That means they now have a quorum, which means they have enough commissioners to make a vote, and they're going to open the public comment for this FCC rule change. Once they do that, that is our time to actually make all of our comments and submit them. More than likely, the FCC, because they're industry friendly from the industry, are going to ignore what we have to say, but we still have to say it. We've got to put it on the federal record. Once that happens, they'll probably approve it. And then what's going to happen is bigwig attorneys are going to go out there and they're going to take them to court. But what I was told by Scott McCullough, who is the telecom attorney for Children's Health Defense National, unlikely that the judge is going to give them a stay. What does that mean? What that means is while this is in court, while it's being battled out, could be a few weeks, a few months, many, many months, I don't know. But while this is happening, what's going to happen is we're not going to get the stay. And that means that telecoms are absolutely able to go out there and start rolling out, just start ramrodding more antennas, more 5G. And from what Scott said, they want to have a 5G antenna every 750 feet. Every 750 feet. And what does this mean right here? This, folks, these lines that I'm talking about, these lines are the framework. They've got it installed. It's ready to go. And it's silently standing in front of your home, down your rural little lane in all of your neighborhoods. And we look at that and we think, oh, that's just so we get, better service and, better internet. No, that is the tangible framework, backbone to your digital prison. It's there. That's it. And this is the problem. If we don't get the court stay, right, if all these things do not go in our favor where, okay, we tell our legislators stop, they don't. We petition the FCC. Once that public comment is open, they ignore it, they approve it, and now we take it to court. Well, during that little time, that's when we're going to ramrod it through. And once they get those antennas, and they actually probably extend even more of that backbone, once they get that stuff installed, good luck taking it down. Do you know how difficult it is to have a cell tower removed? There's been a few cases, mostly on school grounds where they have seen students develop cancer clusters of glioblastomas and leukemias and stuff like that. That sometimes is the few exceptions. But other than that, unless you want to cut those babies down, which I'm sure people will start doing, and there'll be some federal offense of 20 years and maximum security prison, that's what will happen. So it's now, folks, and this is it. It is tangible. The digital prison, the backbone is right there for all of you to see. It's there. It's ready to go. They locked us down for COVID for a multitude of reasons. And one was to silently, in the deep, darkest part of the night, while you're all in your deep REM sleep, to install this backbone quietly without you seeing it. If it is such a good thing, if it is to serve humanity and to give you better service, why not do it in the middle of the day for everyone to see and to celebrate? Like, look, we're going to get better service, because it has nothing to do with service. I'm speaking as a double-decade activist, former elected official, fighting against 5G, going before the California Assembly, going out and fighting and helping co-draft telecom ordinances, educating people, interviewing people, pushing it back. I cannot tell you how important this is. This is one of the most important things, and it's completely under the radar, folks. This is it. And we've been hearing about the digital ID and how we're going to rebel against it and fight against it. Well, guess what? This is the moment that you can actually cut it off at the pass. And if we don't cut it off the pass, it's going to be really, really hard to make it disappear once it's installed. And that's where we are, folks. And we're talking by January 2026. If this goes as we think it will, and the FCC commissioners, and again, we have to fight as hard as we can to stop it. But if they allow this to happen and they allow these rule changes, and it's a coup on community authority, local authority, then that means starting probably in January, they're going to start rolling it out. And when they start rolling it out, you're screwed. Because the problem is that this is all in their terms, and they've removed every single tiny little semblance you have and I have of protecting ourselves and having some say and control over our local authority and our future. And I'm literally saying, please share this with everybody. This is a call to arms. Wake people up, talk to everyone you know, educate them. I'll give you all the links you need below on my Substack, Renette Senum's foghornexpress.substack.com. I'll give updates. I'll give you the links, the petition, everything. But my God, folks, this is it. This is what they've been waiting for. They put the first leg in while we were locked down, and all they need to do now is just add the antennas, and we're toast. This is our last chance. Wherever you go, talk to everyone. Sign the petition demanding your legislators do not allow these FCC rule changes. When the time comes for public comment, overwhelm the FCC with responses. And if that doesn't work, check back with me at the Foghorn Express on Substack for Plan C.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.